Yo, what to do, everybody? This is your boy, the Black Gandhi, bringing y'all another video today. I know it's been a while, but I've been busy. But with me having a little free time before I start my process of going back to school, hopefully in the fall, hopefully, fingers crossed, I decided to go ahead and knock out some video ideas that I've been having over the course of the past few weeks. And although I am wearing my Patriots hat today, I'm going to be talking about another Massachusetts team, which happens to be my favorite NBA team, the Boston Celtics. Touchy subject for me because we've been getting absolutely massacred in the Eastern Conference Finals. I did not expect this to happen because outside of the one game in the regular season, all the other games were decided by single digits. The two halves win were decided by 6 points apiece. Our win was decided by four. So I wasn't expecting us to get completely smoked off the floor like we did in the first two games. I think we were down by 50 at one point in one of the games. It was tough to watch, man. It was tough to watch, but it is what it is. I knew that we weren't going to beat Cleveland this season, so I'm not mad. I'm just mad at the lack of effort, to be honest. Not the fact that we lost, but it just seemed like that the Celtics just gave up 5 minutes into the game, or pretty much right from the jump in game two. And then to top all that off, freaking our main man Isaiah Thomas, who made All NBA second team, props up to him, well deserved. Finally, not being slept on as a great player. He's out now for the remainder of the playoffs with a hip injury that he suffered back in Game 6 in the Washington series. So, I'm if we get beat by 60, I won't be surprised. Um, but especially with the next two games being the Cleveland, I'm sorry the season's over, y'all. So, with that being said, it's time to focus on the offseason. Props up to the Celtics getting that number one seed. Although got absolutely massacred in the conference final, it is what it is at the end of the day. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. So I want to focus on the off season actually. Right. Come on, girl. Of course she doesn't want to leave. Of course she don't want to leave. She's gonna start me out in a little bit though. But I want to focus on the off season. Hope Isaiah recovers from the hip and everything like that. Hope everything goes well. If any surgery is required, and great season Celtics, but you just ran into a buzzsaw. That's all it is to it. Now let's focus on the off season. The Celtics are in a very fortunate position, as y'all know, back in 2012, I want to say, or 2013. Danny Ainge made possibly the greatest trade in Celtic history by fleecing the Nets of four first round picks, including the three iconic first rounders that we know about in 2016, which was last year, which we used to draft Jaylen Brown with the third overall pick. The right to swap picks with the Nets this season, which as we saw in the draft lottery resulted in being the number one overall pick, and then we also get the Nets pick outright in first round pick in 2018. So to top that off, I believe we also have the Magic's 2019 first round pick, if I remember right, from a separate trade. The Celtics are lined up right now in a very good spot because both organizations are playing that well. I think the Nets will play better next season because I think some of the young talent that they did have on that team really did grow during the course of the season, and with free agency, I think they are going to get better as long as they stay healthy. So I don't think that the next pick next year will be that great, but luckily for us, next year's draft class doesn't look like it's going to be as great or even as good as even last year's draft class was. So, with that being said, let's talk about some scenarios that the Celtics can do this offseason. Um, Back at the trade deadline, everybody got on the Celtics, Danny Ainge and the Celtics, for not making a trade for Paul George or Jimmy Butler. But when I heard reports of similar trades that each team wanted, with with the Chicago trade being completely outrageous. They wanted three of these four players, would be our entire defensive depth off the bench in terms of wing defenders, in terms of Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown. They wanted three of those four players. Indiana also wanted three of those four players, but with Indiana, they just wanted the one Brooklyn pick. With Chicago, they wanted both, And there was no way that Danny Ainge was going to mortgage our future for either of those guys, especially considering that neither guy had led their team very far since becoming the man. Let's be real here. Even though Paul George was the face of Indiana when they had Roy Hibbert and David West and Lance Stevenson and George Hill, those guys were veteran players. Those guys were straight veteran players, with the exception of Stevenson. And Stevenson blossomed into a remarkable player after Danny Granger left. So that team was just lined up the proper way for Paul George to be able to succeed the way that he did. And with Jimmy Butler, he's been the man in Chicago for the last 2 seasons. Didn't make the playoffs last year. Got bounced in the first round this year by the team that he was supposedly supposed to get traded to in Boston. So how are we supposed to mortgage all of that? Give up both of our Brooklyn picks and 3 of those 4 players. Even in the perfect scenario, we're able to keep Avery Bradley and give up the rest, along with the 2 Brooklyn picks, just to get Jimmy Butler. What makes this situation any better coming to Boston than he's already in with Chicago? Because now we don't have any depth. We're forced to play Jonas Jerebko extended minutes. We're forced to play James Young now. And we're forced to play Tyler Zeller. 2 of those guys did not see any significant minutes during the course of the season. And then one guy, he didn't really see any significant minutes once the playoffs started. So how is that situation any better than what he had in Chicago? And we probably wouldn't have gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals had we made that trade. And then on top of that, we have no leverage to try to acquire anybody else, because now our bargaining piece or pieces in terms of both Brooklyn picks, now we don't have them. So now we can't make a move to get somebody else to add to the team. So I prop Danny Ainge for him holding on to our assets, so that way he could do something in the off season. The only thing I will be critical of Danny Ainge of is what we saw what New Orleans had to give up for DeMarcus Cousins. I'm thinking we could have put a similar package together like that in order to get him. Putting in the expired contracts of Amir Johnson and Jonas Jerebko, maybe throwing in James Young as well, and then throwing in the Brooklyn pick. Maybe we could have did that for DeMarcus Cousins, because that's what we need. We need a big man. We don't need another wing player. We got a whole bunch of wings. If we're going to make a trade, we should trade to get a big man, and putting DeMarcus Cousins and sliding Al Horford over the power forward, which we would have thought that was going to happen with them going after Horford in the first place with no significant other big man on the roster. You would have thought that they would have gone and went after somebody else to pair with Al Horford, so that way Al Horford could play the power forward position, which that's his best position, as we saw when he was in Florida playing alongside Joakim Noah. Al Horford's an undersized power forward. He doesn't rebound the ball particularly well. He's more of a face-up player, and he's better at the power forward position. I feel that if he would have been paired up with a good center, like a Dwight Howard, for example, I'm just throwing him out there. Not that I want him on Boston, but I think Al Horford for us this year could have done what Paul Millsap was doing, playing alongside Al Horford in Atlanta, with how good Paul Millsap was. I felt that Al Horford could have had that kind of impact, playing his natural position, but obviously he had to play center. So with that being said, there's a few scenarios that we can put out there this offseason that the Celtics can do. Let's focus on one of the main ones, and that's actually keeping the pick. The problem that I see with them keeping the pick is that this draft, although it's a very good draft class, it's very good, maybe even great. Probably the best draft class that we've seen since probably on paper anyway. It hasn't panned out that way, maybe since the Anthony Davis draft in 2012. But because on paper that draft was good, but only a few guys ended up being really good out of that draft class. Obviously, Anthony Davis being, the obvious eye candy of that draft. But the problem with this particular draft class is, although it's a good, potentially great draft class, it's stocked up. All the best players are players that we are already deep at, which is guards and wings. We already have Jay Crowder. We already have Jaylen Brown. We already have James Young. We already have Terry Rozier. We already have Marcus Smart. We already have Avery Bradley. And we already have Isaiah. All the top players are wings and point guards. So the problem with keeping the pick is that you're adding another guard to what we already have, which means that one or maybe even two guards will have to be on their way out in order to make room for that one player. I keep hearing Markelle Fultz, although he is a great player in my opinion. He's probably the best prospect in this draft in terms of NBA ready right now. I think Josh Jackson has the biggest upside if he could develop and become a decent shooter. I think that he will be the best player coming out of this draft. But the problem with drafting a Markelle Fultz, right, is that we already have Isaiah, and the problem with Isaiah, he's 5'9", so we can't play him at the two. Although that would be a great idea, I'm pretty sure that he would be very effective at the two, but he would have an even harder time defending at the two than he would defending the point guard. As we've already seen, he Bradley Beal was giving him the business, biscuits and gravy style, when they were playing Washington in the second round. So that's the main problem here. On top of that, we have Avery Bradley, we have Marcus Smart, we have Terry Rozier. Like, who do we subtract to give Markelle Fultz those minutes that he's going to need? And with him being the number one overall pick, you're going to need to give him extended minutes. You're going to need to give him, close to 30 minutes a game in order for him to really develop. Which means that you're taking minutes away from Isaiah, you're taking minutes away from Avery, you're taking minutes away from Marcus Smart, and then they'll probably end up moving Terry Rozier for something in the future anyway. So that's the biggest problem I see. There's no way in hell that the Celtics are drafting Lonzo Ball. There's no way in the world we're going to do that. No. Absolutely not. It worked one time drafting Paul Pierce, who was a Laker fan and lived in California. It worked one time. It will not work again this time grabbing Lonzo Ball. Because it'll be... All we'll be getting is a bigger Isaiah. A guy that makes everybody around him better. But... the biggest problem is that he doesn't defend. He's a horrible defender. We saw what De'Aaron Fox did to him in the Sweet 16 game. So we're just gonna have the same problem that we have now with Isaiah as our starting point guard, except now Lonzo Ball's a rookie and he's gonna have to learn our offense. He's gonna have to prove himself, and he's gonna have to score. Because dishing won't be a problem for him. Combine him with Al Horford, those two will have the assist game going. But the problem is, he's going to have to score more than 14 points per game to make up for the loss of Isaiah in the starting lineup. I'm pretty sure Isaiah will just move to the bench or whatever, and he'll be our sixth man. But at the end of the day, I don't want Lonzo Ball in the Celtics anyway, so the Lakers can have him. I don't care. You can have him and his piece of shit father and LeVar Ball, and he's just a piece of shit guy. I don't want him anywhere near this team. So... sorry, Lonzo, your dad ruined that for you. But I don't have any ill will on you, though. I wish you a successful NBA career, just not with Boston. Hopefully it's in LA or wherever. Anywhere else outside of Boston. Let me put it like that. So that's the biggest problem that I see with keeping the pick. Is that with us being our deepest at the positions that this draft is great at, I just don't think that keeping the pick will be the most viable option here. Which leads to option B and what I think will be the most likely scenario, and that's us trading for Jimmy Butler. Now, if we have any hint that Gordon Hayward might want to come to Boston, then I'd be willing to give up a little more to get him, because now you're bringing in a guy to replace a guy that you're losing. So here's what I would do. I'm calling up Chicago right now. And I'm saying, yo, I want to revisit the trade that y'all were rumored to wanting to do for Jimmy Butler during the trade deadline, but I want to make a modification. So we'll give you the number one overall pick. We'll give you Jaylen Brown. We'll give you Jay Crowder. We'll give you Terry Rozier straight up for Jimmy Butler. And if that's a problem, if you feel that you don't want to keep Rondo, throw Rondo in the trade and we'll throw in the expiring contract of Amir Johnson. And we'll do that straight up. Real talk. You get the player that you want out of the selection of players that you want. You get out of the Rondo contract. You get a great piece to rebuild with. You get two great players, Jay Crowder to replace the loss of Jimmy Butler. Terry Rozier is a better point guard than almost all the point guards that you have on your roster right now outside of Rondo. And I'm telling them straight up, do that trade. Straight up. And If they say no, then you move on. If they say yes, then that's awesome because now you didn't mortgage anywhere near as much as you had to in order to to get Jimmy Butler in the offseason. I mean, during the trade deadline, and now you're getting a player to replace the loss of Terry Rozier in the deal with adding in Gordon Hayward, and now that strengthens up the bench because now it allows Avery Bradley to move to the bench, or if you want to break Gordon Hayward off the bench, you go ahead and do it as well. But it strengthens the bench. We get two star quality players. Jimmy Butler is a great all around player, probably the closest thing to LeBron that we have in terms of just an all around game. Gives you the rebounds, gives you the assists, can run the offense through him, can give him the ball when he wants to shot. Has improved on the three tremendously. He's a great two-way player. And then Gordon Hayward, he's also a nice, good starting to become all-around player. His passing has improved tremendously since he's come into the league. He's a great scorer. He's a good rebounder at the small forward position. He can also play the two guard. Or if you feel more comfortable playing Jimmy Butler at the two guard, you could go ahead and do that. And then now you have something going here. And then you still also have your mid-level exception, which if Andrew Bogut or somebody like that shows that in terms of Andrew Bogut's case, shows that he's healthy, you can go ahead and use your mid-level exception to sign him because we saw what Golden State was able to do with Andrew Bogut in the middle. And now that slides Al Horford to the power forward spot. And now you have a really good passing starting five with Isaiah, Gordon Hayward / Jimmy Butler, and then the other one at the three. Al Horford at the power forward spot now, and then Andrew Bogut at center. And now you look at the bench, and now you talk about you have Avery Bradley coming off the bench. You have Marcus Smart. You have Jaylen Brown. You have Kelly Olynyk. And now you have a solid 9-man rotation that you can put out there that the starters can kill you offensively during the course of the game. And now you have defensive lineups that you can put out there to protect the rim. Al Horford plays great weak side defense in terms of blocking shots and protecting the paint on the weak side. And now you're putting him at the power forward spot. And like I said, this is all is very, very complicated because there's a lot of things that has to go as the Celtics' way in order for this to work out. So that's that's the scenario that I think I can see working out with them trading for Jimmy Butler, still being able to acquire Gordon Hayward, and then using the mid-level exception to bring in Bogut if he proves that he's healthy, or even Larry Sanders, because now I think the biggest problem with Sanders is not that he played bad, is that we're talking about a guy that literally came off the street after missing 2 seasons. Give him a full offseason to go ahead and get himself in shape, work on his craft, because we all know how great of a shot blocker he is. And now you have you have 2 good options to put at that center spot that aren't star power, that isn't going to cost you a lot of money, and then you can use your money to go ahead and snag a Gordon Hayward in free agency, and then you still have the means to go ahead and trade for Jimmy Butler, and then still be able to extend Isaiah Thomas, since he made an All-NBA team. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but since he did qualify for the All-NBA team this year, he is qualified for the Super Max deal that Paul George and Gordon Hayward unfortunately missed out on by missing the All-NBA teams this year. So that's just one scenario that I think could happen, and I think will be the most likely to happen. This scenario is tougher because this is all hesitant on whether or not a team like the Clippers would want to go ahead and just move on from Blake entirely. But I'm thinking, again, go after Gordon Hayward if you feel that he's showing any of coming to Boston. And then trading for DeAndre Jordan. I think DeAndre Jordan will be the perfect center to pair next to Al Horford because you don't have to run any plays for him. He doesn't clog the paint. And on the defensive end, he's just a havoc. He moves. He has good feet. Moves around the floor pretty good. Protects the rim like it's nobody business. Rebounds the ball for days, which would improve the rebounder tremendously for us. And then you can still go after Gordon Hayward. And the clip and what makes this a good opportunity for the Clippers is that if they decide that they do want to keep CP3 but want to move on from Blake, now you can go ahead and get a guy like Josh Jackson in the draft, or maybe even get a Markelle Fultz or something like that. Maybe him and Chris Paul can play together in the backcourt, and then maybe move JJ Redick to the 3 if he wants to come back. But from what I've heard, he's done in LA. He wants to move on. But that's one scenario. Or you could do the inverse where you still go after Jimmy Butler, but you go ahead and sign a guy maybe like a Greg Monroe. Cheaper than what Gordon Hayward will be on the market. Maybe not the best fit, but he's a good defensive player. He's shown that he can play off the bench. And if he just gives us what he gave Milwaukee last year coming off the bench, I think we'll be very happy with that. And again, that moves Al Horford to the power forward spot. It's moving Al Horford to the power forward spot. It's going to be so key for the Celtics' success next season. Because if he has to continue to play center, he's just going to get bullied by these bigger centers in the league, DeAndre Jordan, Tristan Thompson, these bigger physical centers that are still in the league, that still exist, and then he's still gonna get outclassed by the centers that are the stretch men, such as a Jokic or Kristaps Porzingis, guys like that. He's gonna get cooked by those guys. So he's kind of in no man's land right now, where he has the responsibility of protecting the rim, but he has to play these perimeter guys. So if you just let him play the perimeter and play weak side defense on the back end, and you give him a center that he can play off of that can also protect the rim, like a Bogut, like a Larry Sanders, like a Greg Monroe, now the Celtics are more in line being able to be more successful. On top of that, improving the rebounding. They won't get cooked up on the glass as much. So there's just so the Celtics are in control of their own destiny. That's what I love about this off season in particular. Even though we're getting cooked in the conference final right now, a lot of people will say, "Oh man, the Celtics they should be happy. They shouldn't even be happy that they're even in the conference final for getting cooked up like this. Why shouldn't we be happy? We played our butts off. We got to the conference finals. We just ran into a better team. There's no shame in admitting that. There's no shame in admitting that Cleveland's a better team. That LeBron is playing the best basketball of his career." Because for the first time in his basketball life, he's playing with absolutely no pressure. He's already bought a championship to Cleveland, which is something that nobody else has done since Jim Brown. This is the first time that I've personally been a witness of watching LeBron that I've seen where he's playing absolutely free. He's playing with no pressure. If he loses in the finals to Golden State, who's going to get mad? They just added Kevin Durant to a 73-win team. Nobody's going to be mad at him for that. Especially if he plays well. And especially if it goes 6 or 7. They're going to commend him for that. And that is the worst type of LeBron to play against besides playoff LeBron. Is LeBron James that has absolutely no pressure on him. Playing absolutely free. Nothing's on his mind. Just playing basketball for fun. That's what he's doing right now. He's clowning people. He's freaking twirling the ball before he shoots a 3. He's freaking turning his back to Kelly Olynyk. Be like, yo, you really put this man on me? Really? Like, he's playing with absolutely free reign right now. And that is the second worst LeBron to play against besides playoff LeBron. And it's happening simultaneously. So it's like he's playing on a whole nother level. He could easily be averaging a triple-double right now with the way that he's playing. So I have no shame in losing to a better team. But this offseason is going to be very pivotal. Because you can't go the route of drafting Markelle Fultz and hoping he develops into something. But in my personal opinion, the second scenario that I laid out, go ahead trading for Jimmy Butler, then go ahead and signing Gordon Hayward, and then hopefully, if it works out, signing Bogut or Sanders with the mid-level exception, sliding Al Horford to the power forward spot, Now you have a legit 9-man rotation with your starting lineup being Isaiah, the combination of Hayward and Butler at the 2 and the 3, Al Horford, and then Bogut. And then coming off the bench, you got Kelly Olynyk who could play the 4 and the 5, Jaylen Brown who could play the 3 and the 2, maybe even some small ball 4. Then you got Avery Bradley who would immediately become a 6 man of the year candidate, and then Marcus Smart who's always been one of the better all around players coming off the bench. Gives you anywhere between 7 to 10 points consistently, anywhere between 5 to 7 rebounds consistently, and anywhere between 5 to 7 assists consistently, along with the defensive intensity. Doesn't matter if he's only 6'3", he's gonna guard you he's gonna guard your butt off. So, that's a great scenario that I think Boston can have. But it's all going to be hesitant on what Danny Ainge wants to do. Does he want to keep the pick and draft a guy, or does he want to go ahead and move that pick for an established guy while still being able to sign a max free agent? And then they'll still be able to sign Isaiah to an extension, you know, just as long as Danny Ainge doesn't mind paying the luxury tax, which we see that if you ain't willing to pay the luxury tax, you ain't going to win a championship in this league. Golden State's doing it. Cleveland's doing it. All the top teams are doing it. They're paying a little luxury tax in order to in order to build a championship contender. And the Celtics are going to have to do the same thing. They control their own destiny. There's a good free agency class coming. They control their own destiny. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, hopefully they decide to move the pick for Jimmy Butler. They go ahead, be able to still sign Gordon Hayward, and then if it works out, being able to sign either Andrew Bogut or Larry Sanders to the mid-level exception, giving them a legit 9-man rotation, moving Al Horford to the power forward spot, and that in combination with Brad Stevens coaching, the Celtics. I think at that point the Celtics can really challenge the Cavs in the East. I really do, and I think they could challenge for a championship overall. I really do. I really, really do. Or even if you could even convince Greg Monroe to come for a little less, maybe you could do that too. But I think the more likely scenario is hoping Bogut's healthy, that he wants to play, or Sanders giving him a whole offseason to go ahead and work himself into basketball shape and everything like that. Refining his tools and everything like that. What made him a great player. And like I said, the Celtics control their own destiny. We're in a great spot right now, even though it doesn't look like it. But I just think we're in a good spot right now. So that's just my opinion on the Celtics. Great season. Proud of my team no matter what. Even though next game we'll probably get smashed by 60, that doesn't matter, man, because we got there. You know what I'm saying? We're showing constant progression each year since Brad Stevens has come aboard, and I can live with that. Even if we're getting smoked off the floor, I can live with that. I really can. Because, like I said, there's no pity in losing to a better team. So, yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. So, leave y'all opinions in the comment section below what the Celtics should do with the pick. Who should they target in free agency? Should they trade for somebody? Notice how I said nothing about Paul George, because we already know he's bound for Lakerland. And unless if it's the Pacers, there's no other team that has a chance of signing him to an extension. So Paul George is out of the table. Plus, I want somebody that isn't afraid of LeBron. And I think Jimmy Butler is a little less afraid of freaking LeBron than Paul George is, as we saw this postseason. So, like I said, leave your opinions in the comment section. Tell me what you think the Celtics should do with the pick. Who should they trade for? Who should they go after? In free agency with their money, and tell me in the comment section what the scenario that I laid out. Subtracting Jay Crowder and Terry Rozier, but adding Gordon Hayward, Jimmy Butler. Also subtracting Amir Johnson as well, and Jonas Jerebko, because they're scheduled to become free agents. But adding Gordon Hayward, Jimmy Butler, and either Bogut or Sanders. The scenario I threw out there that give them a legit 9-man rotation. Tell me if you think that that's competitive in the Eastern Conference. Let me know. Thank y'all for watching the video. Continue to stay blessed. Have a nice day, y'all. And as always, this is your boy, the Black Gandhi, signing out. Till the next one. Peace.